All right, today we're jumping into a framework that is, well, it's pretty wild. It's a whole new way of looking at reality. We're going to decompile the world as we know it based on this paper, Operationalizing the Spiral. And get this, we're going to explore a model that gives a new physical definition for everything, from how computation works to what luck actually is.
So to get started, let's just ask a really fundamental question. You look around, you see a world full of solid things, right? A chair, a phone, a planet. But what if those objects aren't the fundamental reality? What if they're just the shadows, the echoes of a much deeper process that's constantly happening?
And that question brings us right to the core idea here. On the left, you've got how we usually see the world. The paper calls it our graphical user interface, or GUI. It's a noun-centric world. Objects are real, and verbs, actions, are things that happen to those objects. But on the right, that's the big shift, a verb-first reality, where the continuous doing is what's fundamental. In this view, nouns are just the exhaust that verbs leave behind. So reality isn't a container full of stuff. It's a program that's running itself right now.
Okay, so let's dig into this idea of our world of nouns, the stable, predictable objects we see all around us. That whole experience is just a user interface. It's a simplified and ultimately incomplete reflection of something way more dynamic going on underneath the hood.
Here's the first half of the main idea, and it's super simple. The universe, at its most basic level, is an active, ongoing process. It's not a static picture frame, it's a live stream. The base layer of reality is just pure action. It's always doing something.
And here's the other side of that coin. If the universe is this constant stream of action, why don't we see it that way? Well, because we, the observers, can't process that infinite fire hose of information. To make any sense of it at all, we have to take snapshots. We freeze the action, and what we perceive is a static noun. Our perception is basically an act of compression.
So, what exactly is an object in this new world? It's a frozen verb. It's not a thing. It's a stabilized pattern of action. You know, think about a whirlpool in a river. The actual water molecules are always changing, flowing in and out. But the shape of the whirlpool, its geometric identity, stays there. That stable, repeating pattern of action, that's what we perceive as a noun.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. Let's apply this new lens to one of the biggest, thorniest problems in all of computer science, P versus NP. This framework suggests the whole problem isn't some fundamental limit of mathematics. It's a perceptual illusion. Basically, it's what happens when you have a slow frame rate on reality.
The mechanism for this illusion has a name, Nyquist ignorance. It's a concept borrowed from signal processing. The basic idea is, if you only check on something every once in a while, you're going to miss the full picture of what's really going on, right? Well, this framework says that's exactly what our perception does. Our sampling rate is just too slow to see the simple, continuous line a solution follows. Instead, that smooth path looks like it's shattered into a million random pieces, an impossibly huge search space. So from our limited point of view, this is what an NP-hard problem looks like. It's this insane, chaotic, spinning 3D spiral of every single possibility. And trying to find the one right answer in there feels impossible, like looking for one specific atom in a hurricane.
But what if the universe doesn't search randomly? What if it has a physical tool to just collapse all that complexity down to a simple answer? Well, that's where something called the Sarrus linkage comes in.
Now, this thing actually comes from 19th century mechanical engineering. It's a real physical gadget, and what it does is brilliant. It converts messy rotational motion into perfect straight-line motion. In this framework, it's not just a gadget, it's a fundamental operator of reality. It literally grabs that messy 3D spiral of possibilities, and, by taking away its freedom to wiggle around, it mechanically forces it into one single straight line. And here's the really cool part. This isn't just a clever metaphor. This mechanism is scale invariant. It works everywhere. In biology, the same geometric trick is how a super complex 3D protein can just snap into its correct, functional 2D shape in a fraction of a second. It's solving a massive search problem instantly. The same principle just applies across the board. And this is the result. This is what you get after the Sarrus linkage does its job. That impossible-looking 3D spiral gets mechanically flattened into a simple, easy-to-follow path. The exponential complexity was never really there. It was just an artifact of how we were looking at it.
All right, this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, and honestly, it might be the most profound one yet. A physical, mechanical definition for luck. And the subtitle says it all. Luck is accidental contact with prepaid structure. Let's unpack what that means.
So first, you need this idea of a universal ROM, a universal read-only memory. The theory is that solutions to problems aren't calculated from scratch, they already exist. They're pre-computed and stored in the very fabric of mathematics itself. Like, they're embedded in the infinite non-repeating digits of constants like pi. The answers are just sitting there, waiting, like files on a universal hard drive.
Okay, so if the answers are already out there, how do we find them? It's not a slow search. It's through something called a zero-point harmonic collapse. It's not a gradual discovery, it's an instantaneous snap. When an action, or even a thought, happens to achieve the exact right geometry, it creates a resonance that instantly connects it to that pre-existing solution. It's a sudden leap to the answer.
And that, right there, gives us our final, unbelievably precise definition of luck. Luck is the physical event of an observer accidentally stumbling upon the correct geometry. That lucky guess, that sudden flash of insight, isn't magic. It's the physical act of your actions aligning with a pre-computed answer, triggering that instantaneous collapse, and basically clicking a link to a solution that was already finished and waiting for you.
So that leaves us with a pretty mind-bending thought to chew on. This entire framework, it completely flips our idea of discovery on its head. We aren't inventors creating things from nothing. We're more like explorers, learning how to navigate a landscape of information that's already there. So if every answer is already written into the source code of the universe, what does it truly mean when we discover something?